when somebody tells you that you can't do something, that is one of the best motivators to not show them that you can, but to prove them wrong secretly. So something that I learned this actually from Travis Pastrana. And the fact is that like, as soon as somebody dares you or says that you can't do something, it's like an immediate competition. And sometimes those competitions can be silent, where it's only in your own head is the competition. But he taught me like competition makes anything fun. You can, unless you're just like not a competitive person, which I guess there's people out there that aren't competitive, but I know I'm competitive. And sometimes I've taught myself to disengage from that competitor mindset because it can actually really deteriorate your quality of life. At the same time, if you're conscious about it and very aware of what you're choosing to be competitive about, then you can use it to your advantage and use it in a way that's really enjoyable and fun. For example, like what I'm talking about Travis is that, you know, he's got plenty of money, but he would always make bets for $1. Like I bet you $1, and it just for that $1 bet changes everything. It's like all of a sudden, oh, okay, there's something on the line, even though it's just, you know, $1. But I want to remind you that a little healthy competition is good. And a lot of times I think that the healthy competition thing with yourself is a lot more sustainable and positive than the prove someone wrong thing, because ultimately I've done the whole prove someone wrong thing, and it doesn't exactly, I mean, I feel like if you have a soul at the end of the day, it doesn't make you any happier because, you know, once you've done it, it's like, I feel like it's a bit of a grudge holding thing where you're like, oh, and it just depends on the circumstances, but you're like, oh, I'm going to prove this person wrong. So I'm going to go out and do this and I'll show them. And then like you go and do it. And then you're like, okay, like, see, I showed them. And the reality is like, you probably don't even care about that situation anymore. And it's hard to sustain something like that. It can work. I think what can work a lot better is a competition with yourself. Like maybe saying, I bet you that you can't do this. But then again, you got to believe in yourself. So you're like, no, I'm just going to go out and do this. But you can prove people wrong along the way, but that shouldn't be the sole intention. I think just figuring out some type of competition. Like if you want to compete in action sports, you want to compete in snowboarding, you want to compete in like your local spelling bee, like whatever it is, all of a sudden you're training for something. And you can look at competition. Like when I got my pilot's license back, I remember I was like, all right, I'm competing, not necessarily like against the FAA, but I'm competing with myself right now to learn as much as I possibly can. So when the check ride comes and I'm doing this stuff, you better know your shit or you're going to fail. And that means that competition, you failed at that competition, you lost. So that's like one little example where competition can be looked at as not just an event, but like something that you're doing. You know, like even of course, like let's just say you're playing a pickleball match and you're competing in that. And like, yeah, okay, you won or lost the match, or that's like one version. But then again, another version is like competing to finish college or competing to, you know, get a raise at your job or competing to actually be a self-employed business owner, and that you're competing to have that result like in your own life. You're like, yeah, this is like what my life is now because I created this. I competed for it. I challenged myself. I worked for it. And here it is. And here's the rewards of it. And that was actually something that I learned a lot at the Olympics, and realizing that once I thought I was completely confident that I was going to win the last Olympics, or that was like almost 10 years ago now, but and I didn't. And what I realized was like 2 or 3 years of hard training literally felt like it went down the drain in a way, because I didn't have anything to show for it. I was like, like 9th place, and I could have done, you know, so much better. I almost won, but didn't, kind of a thing. And I was like, well, that's not a very like sustainable competition. So if I ever go back to that, like I'll just do it more for fun and not put so much effort into it. But then I thought, what about competitions that can upgrade your quality of life in a massive way? Like, what about meditation? What about like challenging yourself to meditate every day? What about challenging yourself to like do jujitsu every day? Not every day, but what about challenging yourself to learn new things? Learn to fly, learn to paraglide, learn to skydive, learn to base jump, learn to do whatever it is. But those are little competitions within your own self where you're like, I want to master this. I want to get better. I want to. Like, what about psychology? What about business? It's like, those are little competitions that you can set in your own head and just be like, I will stop at nothing to go get this. I will do whatever it takes. It's just got to mean something to you. And ideally, it adds value to the people around you. It adds value to the world. It's uplifting others. It's not dragging anyone down. You're not sacrificing somebody else's joy or livelihood for your gain. That's the ultimate competition, is where you're competing and you're obsessed about something. I feel like that's the jackpot. You're competing and you're obsessed about something that's uplifting yourself and the ones around you and the world. I think, and that's a really cool thing with businesses, is like a lot of businesses, it's not about the money. It's not about making profit. It's about what it's doing for the world. Like, look at what Uber and Airbnb have done. Those two brands for me, and Amazon, when you look at, like, there's so many different views on those. But look at like how many people are now making an income driving or like renting out their house or selling something online that otherwise that would have never been possible. So it's like, it's not about the money, but it's about like giving somebody the opportunity to do something that otherwise, like, they've opened up spaces, especially Airbnb. They've opened up people's homes that otherwise would have never been available. That's like a huge inspiration. And then talk about what I'm working on with Funt. It's like you're giving people access to knowledge and opportunities that otherwise would never been available. Like you're building like this knowledge, this database, this information system that is giving people opportunities that otherwise would have never been able to, whether it's learning or going somewhere, whatever it is. I think that's a huge inspiration, and it's a huge competition. Let's see if we can do this. Let's see if this resonates with people. Let's see if people decide to adopt this. And it's a lot easier to say than do, but healthy competition is a good thing, I think.